Hello, my name is Burke of Sharp Stuff Sharpening Service, and I'm going to be going over basic cutting motions. The rocking motion is a very traditional French style of cutting where the knife never leaves the board. It's always making contact, and it is lifted by the heel, being guided along its own profile up towards the tip. The food is placed under the knife, and you simply bring the knife down and guide more food underneath the blade. The rocking motion can be a really good motion for cutting through something very hard because the knife is always in contact with the board. It's really difficult for it to slip out and cut you when you're using this motion. One of the biggest disadvantages is that it wears on your edge pretty hard because the edge is always being rubbed against the board. Of course, with a good cutting board this isn't too big of a deal, but it is a little bit more abusive than say push cutting. The rocking motion is a very safe cutting motion and a good one for kids to start with. It's always good to tell children that the knife never leaves the board, that it stays on the board when it's not in use and is always touching the board when you're using it. And this will help to keep them from dropping it or accidentally sticking maybe their fingers underneath the knife. Push cutting can be a little confusing because what you're actually doing is pushing the knife forward and down at the same time, and as soon as it makes contact with the board you just stop and you kind of make a locomotive sort of motion, lifting the knife up and dropping it. The end result is a very gentle cutting motion where the knife barely makes contact with the board. This will prolong the life of your edges significantly, but it does require skill to not shave off a bit of your knuckle when you're doing this, and really benefits from a flat profiled knife. Slicing is a very simple cutting motion where you just put the knife onto the food and then draw the knife backwards, letting the weight of the knife do all of the work. This is really very easy and kind of self-explanatory, but usually I know people will say a slice of tomato or a slice of fruit, but as far as cutting motions go, slicing really only refers to the long, gentle movement of a bigger knife, especially being pulled backwards towards your body. Chopping is kind of a sloppily used word. When it refers to a cutting motion, it differs from push cutting in that you're not moving the knife forward and therefore in two directions at once. You're just pushing the knife straight down onto the food. This usually is fairly demanding on an edge. It requires a high level of polish, and it can be kind of abusive to bang it into the board. So this is really sort of a high performance way of cutting through food, but if done properly, you can really get through a lot of food really fast like that. One thing you should never be doing with your knives is sawing, which is a very common way of cutting things for people who have lived their entire lives with dull knives. You see them put the knife on the food and just run it back and forth until you get the piece that you want. This is a really exhausting way of cutting up food. With a properly sharpened knife, sawing should never really be an issue. You simply pull the knife backwards and the cut is made. Even with things like bread knives, you really should never be fighting with your knife to get it through. You should always be slicing just gradually back and forth. And the weight of the knife should do most of the work for you. All of these different cutting motions are really useful, and some people prefer one over the other. You really just to try them all out and see which one works best for you.